Welcome to Simple Hobby Homesteading. I am Jenna and today we are going to make elderberry syrup. Now, why are we going to make elderberry syrup? I was in Double D's, a restaurant here in our hometown, and I think it was like last weekend, and I ran into a couple friends who were just under the weather. They were just not feeling well. They've been battling these colds or maybe even bronchitis, I'm not sure. And she said to me, the woman said to me, do you make elderberry syrup? I've heard about it. I just want to see if we can try it. And her husband's just sitting there like, what is elderberry syrup? And so she asked me if I made it, and I said, of course I make it. And I wanted to make a batch for them. So I'm going to make a batch and leave it in their mailbox. Hopefully they're feeling better, because gosh knows I don't want to get close to that sickness. So I'm just going to leave it in the mailbox and run. So let's talk a little bit about elderberry syrup today. Now, when I started making elderberries, I thought, well, why can't I just add, whole berries to like smoothies or to, my oatmeal or something like that? It seems like, getting the whole berry would be even better than making syrup out of it. Well, a lot of varieties of elderberries, when eaten raw or dried without being cooked, they can cause nausea, vomiting, and abdominal cramps. So you really don't want to eat raw elderberries unless you know for a fact that the type that you're eating isn't the variety that causes those issues. But all elderberries, when you cook them, they not only become safe and wonderful, but they unleash so many incredible qualities that fight sickness, and they're just incredible. Do your research on elderberries and elderberry syrup, and you decide if it's right for you or your family. Now, the recipe I make, I add honey, ginger, it's elderberries, and water. I add the honey because there are incredible antibiotic properties. In fact, honey is the oldest antibiotic known to man. In ancient times, they used it not only internally, but also to dress wounds on top of your skin. Honey is incredibly rich in antioxidants. There is no debating that. Everyone agrees with that. It also lowers LDL, which is like your bad cholesterol, and actually raises HDL, which is your good cholesterol. It suppresses coughs. It is antibacterial. It is anti-inflammatory. And like I said, a lot of research is showing that it is antiviral and antifungal. So that antiviral is really the key, because that is what's going to kill the viruses in your body and so on and so forth. So we want that honey in there. Remember though, they suggest, research doctors, whatever, suggest not giving honey to kids under 1 year old. So this elderberry syrup is not meant for kids under 1, in my opinion and the opinion of doctors. You take what you want with that. So what we do here on our homestead with elderberry syrup is kind of daily or once a week, or whenever I feel like I need an immunity boost, I take a teaspoon of this elderberry syrup. We always have some made in the fridge. Now, when anybody is sick, or if I'm sick, I don't get sick very often, but if I am sick, then I up that to 1 tablespoon of elderberry syrup a day. Now, if you don't want to take 1 tablespoon all at one sitting, 3 teaspoons throughout the day, you'll be good to go. But I've had my kids take it before. They're not fans of it. Even with the honey sweetening it, they just don't like the taste, and they get to be a little over dramatic, and so I don't even force the issue. They're 15 and 21. I'm not forcing the issue with that with them. My husband does not take it, but I'm trying to think if he has ever. He is actually really incredibly healthy as far as colds and flu and stuff like that goes. And he does a lot of other supplements, pill form. He's not a huge fan of doing like liquids. So we also use ginger root in our elderberry syrup. I mince or grate ginger root for our recipe. We use 1 tablespoon per half a cup of elderberries. Now, ginger root is incredible, especially during illness, because it calms digestion. It helps ease muscle pain. It fights nausea. It is an anti-inflammatory. It fights infection because it's got a bioactive compound called gingerol. I think that's how it's pronounced. G-I-N-G-E-R-O-L, I think, if I remember right. And it reduces the risk of infection by limiting the bacteria growth in the body. So adding ginger root is incredible for this recipe. And a lot of people don't know what ginger root is, but it can be found in almost every grocery store. It comes as a root, and I'm going to show you how we peel it and grate it and add it to our recipe. I'm excited. So all in all, the recipe that we use is a half a cup of dried elderberries, and we use 2 cups of water. We use 1/2 cup of honey and 1 tablespoon of ginger. So whenever I'm making elderberry syrup, my husband loves to come in and say, "Hey honey," and I'm like, yes, sweetie, it happens every time. He's like, your mother is a hamster and your father smelled of elderberries. And I'm just like, okay. And then he'll come in a little later and said, you smell of elderberries. And I'm just like, what in the world? And I had forgotten. I'd watched the movie, but I had forgotten it. The first time he did it, I had forgotten what it was from, and then he showed me the clip on YouTube. And I remembered immediately what it was from. If anybody knows what movie I'm talking about, throw it in the comments below, and everyone that has the right answer, I will pick someone randomly and send them a jar of elderberry syrup and possibly a hamster. No, I'm not sending a hamster in the mail. That's quite illegal. Although they send ladybugs in the mail. They send live things. I don't think they send mammals. And that's not fair to the hamster. We're not sending anybody a hamster, but I can send you a jar of elderberry syrup. Now, I'm not a doctor. Okay, I should have prefaced this whole video with that. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I am no medical professional. I do not make any claims that elderberry syrup cures anything. I just know that it helps tremendously with a lot of things. So take that as you may. But yeah, throw in the comments what movie my quote was. Your mother was a hamster and your father smelled of elderberries. Because there is a smell. There's a smell when you're making elderberry syrup. We're going to start. Why continue to just blabber on? So I've got a nice little burner here that we're going to use so that you can see a little bit better because the lighting is better. So we are going to add 2 cups of water to our pot here. We are going to add 1/2 cup of elderberries. There we go. Look at those elderberries. They're so just like dried and shriveled. They're perfect though. Absolutely perfect. And then ginger. We need our ginger. So let's show you how to do ginger. We'll wait to get that started for just a second because I forgot about the ginger. All right, so now with this ginger, we're just going to cut off a piece right here. And we're going to peel this outer skin off. If you want to just kind of cut off those knobs, you can. And when you get ginger from the store, make sure you keep it in your refrigerator until you're ready to use it. All right, so now you can see we are ready to grate this ginger. I love graters like this. It's actually a zesting grater. Be careful and only run your fingers up this way, otherwise you will cut your fingers. But you can also get a smaller zester like this, which is really handy too. But I just like this because it's got a handle that sits there and I can just grate. Now we just need a tablespoon of this. So you can see when I zest it like this, it kind of comes on the back there. Can you see that? Yeah. So we're going to let that fall off, and also we can kind of pull that off at the end and push it off. So I just keep zesting it like this, or grating it, whatever you want to call. And a zest is just like a smaller grate. So it's just very small. And because we're zesting it and getting it a little bit smaller than like regular grated or minced ginger, you can use a little bit less than a tablespoon if you're not a huge fan of the taste of ginger. But I love ginger and I love what it does for me. So we're going to use quite a bit of it. So as you can see, we've got all that ginger on the back of the grater there. Here, let's let you see a little bit. All of that ginger on the back of the grater, we're just going to pull that off and use about a tablespoon, maybe a little less than a tablespoon, because this is going to somebody else. So I need to remember that they might not be as huge of a fan of ginger. Alrighty, so we're going to add about 3/4 of a tablespoon because this is finely grated, or otherwise known as zested ginger. So we're going to add about 3/4 tablespoon so it's not too overwhelming for those folks that we're giving this to. And then I can save this ginger for something else. Alright, so we're going to get our heat going on this. We want to bring this to a boil before we turn it down to a simmer, and let it simmer until half of that liquid is gone. So we want to simmer until we have about 1 cup of liquid left with our elderberries in there. So we're going to put a lid on this just to get it up to that heat, up to that boil a little quicker. But keep an eye on it, because don't be running off and doing something with the kids right now, because you want to keep an eye on this so that when it gets up to boiling, you can turn it down to a simmer right away, and then simmer until, once again, we have just about 1 cup of liquid left, and it's going to thicken nicely. That ginger is in there, that elderberry is in there. Now people ask, why don't you put the honey in so it'll melt and get all beautiful with that? When honey is cooked, it destroys a lot of the nutritional benefits and antioxidant benefits of the honey. So we are going to simmer this down, And then we are going to pull it off the heat and bring it to room temperature, or I guess wait for it to come to room temperature on its own. You really can't coax that along any quicker unless you put it in the fridge. But we're just going to let it sit until it gets to room temperature. And then we're going to whisk in the honey when that elderberry syrup is at room temperature. So that makes sure that that honey stays in its good nutritional form and has all the benefits that we need. Now, if you can get local honey, that is even better. Local honey is good for allergies because it brings the pollen of your local bee colony into your system and help builds up immunities to general allergens in your area. So local honey is wonderful. If you're in Boonville area like us, Ridgewood, what is it? Ridgewood Dogwood, Ridgewood. I'm gonna have to look it up. I'll put it in the description, but it's a local Boonville place where they sell bees and hives, everything you need for it, and honey. So head up there, shop local for sure. I'll put their information in the description down below. Something with dog Ridgewood. I don't know. I can't remember it off the top of my head. I'll put it in the description below. Always check out the descriptions of our videos, which is just, there's like a little arrow below the video, and just click on that arrow and you'll see the description. There's usually some nuggets of fun in there, and this will have good information. It'll have the recipe for elderberry syrup, and then throw in the comments once again that movie that I quoted, and I'll pick someone to send a bottle of elderberry syrup to, or a jar of elderberry syrup. So what else? We're going to wait. We're going to wait for this to boil, and I'll keep checking in with you guys, and I'll keep checking in on the simmering process, and we don't need to sit here and watch a pot come to boil because we know it won't if it's watched, but kind of stay close to it and still watch it. I'm not saying don't watch the pot. I don't know. I've gone off a tangent. Oh, one thing I want to try. I got chili mango limon candy, or a dried fruit. So what it is mangoes. I love mangoes. Mexican candy and I, or Mexican sweets and I haven't always agreed. I did a video, and I'll put the link to that in the description below too. I did a video with Connor about Mexican candy. We tried like a whole huge box of Mexican sweets. It was not good for me. It was great for Connor. He loved it. Not good for me. Con chili. Everything was con chili, and I couldn't handle it. So I am thinking I'm going to be an adult now. I'm going to be more adult. I am going to, because I love mangoes. That's the other thing. I love mangoes. So I saw this, and I said, I'm going to try it. I'm going to give it another try and actually chew and eat and consume and swallow and give it a good chance. And of course, I got a package to send to you guys in the box for the January box. So I'm still so excited to pick a subscriber tomorrow. Picking a subscriber tomorrow. So if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel yet, do it now. Subscribe. It's free. It's easy. And you can win a box that I sent to you of all the sweets from January. Not just sweets. There's a bar of soap in there, homemade soap. There is a jar of jalapenos in there. Oh my gosh, there is wonderful things in there. Or there are wonderful things. Okay, mango. Mango, dried mangoes with, of course, con chile. So we're doing this. It's going to be good, Jenna. Mangoes with chili. It's so good. It's not good. I love mangoes. The chili is so spicy. I swallowed it. The chili is very spicy. I wonder if I could get used to this. I love spice. I really do. I've been into jalapeno chips lately. I really love spice. But I don't like spice. I don't like this chili with the sweetness of mango. That's what I'm having issues with. Oh, I tried. I tried. Mexico, I tried. Nope. I can't love this. I'm so sorry, Mexico. I can't love this. I can't love it. I love chili powder. And I think I love chili powder. I put chili powder in a lot of things. It's in my taco seasoning, and I love my taco seasoning. Chili powder. I love the chili that I make. I love mangoes, but when you put them together, I don't love the mix. And I don't understand why Mexico adds chili powder to all of their sweets. All of them. Mexico. That's all right. I think I'm just totally, completely American, where I just want my sugar. Just give me my vat of cane sugar, and I'm going to, like, okay, not even kidding. We would go to Kentucky when I was a kid, my grandparents would take us down to Kentucky to see family down there. They had cane sugar, like canes of sugar growing out of the ground, right? I would take, my grandpa would like, he'd peel some kind of outer thing off the cane. I would take and chew on this cane sugar, and it was the best thing ever. In my whole life, it was the best thing ever. I would just sit there and chew and just love this whole thing of cane sugar. So that's me. That's me. There was no cone chili with my cane of sugar. That's me. That's me. All right, and my grandma would always say, my grandma Warner, this is another grandma, she'd always say, it's too much sugar, Jenna, you're eating too much sugar. I know, and I'm trying to cut the sugar out because it's not good for my waistline. But, oh, I love sugar. As you've seen over these videos, the things I try, I always come back to sugar. I do. Is it addicting? I don't know. Of course, I don't know. That's a whole different video. So I am going to check back often with this. It's actually getting close to a boil right now, which is wonderful. Now, one thing, watch out with your stirring spoon that you have in here. Don't set it on a light counter. It will stain your counter, and sometimes it's difficult to get that elderberry stain up off your counter. So just kind of a little hint there. Alrighty, we got it at a nice rolling boil now, so we're going to turn down that heat and bring it to a simmer. And we're going to keep it uncovered while it simmers because we want that water to evaporate and bring it down to just 1 cup of water. So keep it uncovered while you're simmering. And see what I mean about that elderberry juice? It can stain if you don't wipe it up. Nice little simmer there. We're going to stir it every once in a while. Alrighty, folks, so as you can see, we have reduced down to about 1 cup of liquid. You can really see those berries in there now. So now what we want to do is pour this directly into the strainer. I'm going to turn off the heat. I've got a strainer here and just a measuring cup here. You don't have to have a measuring cup. You can do whatever you want there, but a bowl of some sort. And we're going to just watch for splatter. I don't want to get any splatter on my clothes. So we're going to pour this whole concoction directly into that strainer. Just like that. I'm going to scrape out all the berries. And remember, throughout the time we were stirring and just letting it simmer. Nice. Perfect. So here we just have a bunch of berries. And let's see how much liquid we have. Let's see how right on, let's see how right on we are with, a little bit less than a half a cup. So we could have taken it off a little sooner. But we'll just have a little bit more potent of elderberry syrup here. And if you want to thin out the syrup a little bit, you can add a little bit of water if you want at this point. But I'm all for a little thicker syrup. And what we're going to do is we're going to mash down these berries, and we might find that we come to about a cup of liquid once we mash down all these berries. So I'm taking the back of the spoon, and I'm just mashing these down, mashing them down like that to get all the juice out, moving them around a little bit. Be careful not to get any in the liquid over the strainer. And also be careful not to push too hard. I once broke the mesh right out of a strainer by pressing too hard. It wasn't with elderberry syrup. It was when I was making chicken stock, and I had like a bunch of bones and chicken and vegetables, and the strainer was quite full, and I was pushing down to get all that broth out, and I broke the mesh right out of the rim of the strainer. I was so mad because it was like my favorite strainer too. So there is a ton of juice still coming out. And if you have a shallow bowl, lift that strainer up out of the bowl so you're not just collecting more liquid into the berries with the bottom of the strainer sitting in the liquid. All right, yeah, we have about a cup of liquid now after we've done all the mashing of the berries. Oh, and it's a beautiful dark liquid. Oh, that is so nice. And if you do get splatter or anything on your counter, go ahead and clean it up right away so that it doesn't stain your counter. All right, so now we are going to let this sit, let it come to room temperature, which it will do quite quickly here in my cool kitchen. And then we are going to mix in a half a cup of our honey, and I do have a nice local honey here. And we're going to whisk in that half a cup of honey, and then we're going to put it in our jars. Now you can always double or triple the batch if you want to make quite a bit. It lasts for 3 months in your refrigerator. And this type of elderberry syrup, because we're not adding a lot of sugar to it, we have a little bit of natural sugar with the honey, but we're not adding a ton of sugar to act as a preservative for it. We can't like can this elderberry syrup. It won't last unrefrigerated. So if you want to can it, like seal it, you do need to add some sort of preservative or some sort of sugar, a lot of sugar. But we're not adding that because I don't want a ton of sugar in my elderberry syrup. And so we are going to keep ours refrigerated as we always do. And I usually make a new batch every 2 months because that's about how fast I go through it. And so mine never lasts in the fridge for 3 months. But it does, if you're going to keep it there for a while, it does last for up to 3 months in your refrigerator. Alrighty folks, it's been about 20 minutes, and because our kitchen is quite cool in the winter, this elderberry syrup has cooled down to room temperature already. So we can add our ½ cup of honey, and I have a whisk here. We're going to whisk it in, and sometimes that's kind of the hardest part because at room temperature, that honey doesn't want to always incorporate perfectly. So oftentimes too, what we do with the elderberry syrup in our fridge is before I take a teaspoon of it or a tablespoon of it, however much I'm going to take that day, I shake up the jar. And so that just kind of reincorporates the honey, anything that's settled, which is good. And so we're just going to get all this honey in there. Oh my goodness, it's so wonderful. And now there is a definite smell in your kitchen when you make elderberry syrup. So I bet when my husband comes home from work, he's going to ask if I smell of elderberries. He's going to know I do. So when you whisk, you want to do it quite gently, otherwise you may splatter it all up over yourself. And this elderberry syrup does stain clothing, so you got to be careful with that. So we're just going to whisk and incorporate this honey. Make sure you're whisking all the way to the bottom. And it does take a couple minutes to whisk it all in well. Now, one reason I like making elderberry syrup at home rather than buying it in the store is, number one, in the store, it has a preservative. Whether that's a natural preservative with sugar or a synthetic preservative with some sort of chemical, either way, I don't want added sugar, and I really don't want a synthetic preservative either, unless it's refrigerated. If it's refrigerated at like a health food store or something like that, and it has an expiration date within about 3 months, and you check the ingredients, then you probably know that that kind isn't chock full of preservatives or added sugar. But if it's sitting on a shelf somewhere in a store or whatever, it has to have some sort of preservative in it, or whether it be natural with extra sugar or whatever. But this doesn't. This has all natural ingredients. I watched myself put them in, so I know exactly what's in this. And this is cheaper. Have you seen how much elderberry syrup costs in the store? The biggest expense with making it at home is buying the elderberries. Now, or you can grow them yourself if you like and do it almost completely free. I get my elderberries on Amazon. I did try growing elderberries, but I think either my goats got into the bush or a deer did or something, but they didn't last. The bush didn't last. And so I'm going to try it again this year and add some protection around it, but we'll see. I do buy my elderberries from Amazon. They're organic elderberries, and I'll put the link down below to the ones that I like, and I buy them in bulk because it's cheaper that way, and I make a lot of elderberry syrup. I do sell it, I do use it myself, and I do gift it to a lot of friends and family. And so what you might want to do is get a bulk order and then split it with some friends. Have an elderberry party where you're making elderberry syrup together, and everybody goes home with a couple jars of elderberry syrup, and you all share the cost of the ingredients. It's a really neat way to do it, and it's a good way to foster community. So let me just say though, as a little caveat, elderberry is not the cure-all for everything, especially in the season of flu and colds and rhinoviruses or whatever. Wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. A rule we have, and not really a rule, but a habit more that we have, and I've instilled with my boys, when we come home from the outside world, from out and about, from Walmart, from shopping, from whatever, the first thing we all do when we come in is we go and we wash our hands. It's a germy world out there. It is just a germy world out there. And so we just make it a habit of washing our hands the first thing we do when we come in the house. And I do sanitize the door handles quite a bit. Now when the boys and I are outside playing or outside working or anything like that, We usually wash our hands when we come in, but unless they're dirty, sometimes we don't. The outside nature's germs, I think, and this is just my personal opinion, sometimes help build immunity. So we are still cognizant to wash our hands often. But if they're not super, if I go out to do a few little chores and they're not super dirty, I don't wash them when I come inside. I just don't. And I very rarely get sick. And when I do, it lasts just a short amount of time. So that is a huge blessing. So our honey is all incorporated. It's a huge blessing, but also it's something that I do to kind of help myself and help my family. So we are done incorporating all of that honey in. We are going to jar our elderberry syrup. This is my favorite part. So I'm just pouring it in clean jelly jars. And I find these store well in the fridge. And let's see how many jelly jars. I think we're probably going to end up getting 2 jelly jars worth of elderberry syrup. Or maybe 1.5. Oh no, we got almost 2 full jars of elderberry syrup. Perfect, perfect, perfect consistency. So thank you for joining me today to make elderberry syrup. I hope you try this at home on your homestead or your house or wherever you are. And I hope you get your family on board with it. If you just take like a teaspoon or a tablespoon and kind of do it as a shot or hide it in yogurt or whatever, it is awesome. Trust me, it's awesome. So remember, do what you can with what you have wherever you are, and we will see you later. Have a great day. Bye-bye. So now what we're going to do is pour it directly into the strainer here. We need to strain those berries out. Sorry, I'm not talking to you.